morning, good morning. I hope you're all feeling well rested and ready for today, because it's going to be an absolutely cracker of a day. Guthonic, good morning to you, ahoy. Like I say, ahoy hoy to you, ahoy hoy to everyone else who's joining us. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Prinny Bird, greetings to you. David, hi and hola. That wacky debate, yeah, that was a really... That wacky debate indeed. We'll be talking more about that in a bit. Good morning from Denmark. Good morning to you. Like I say, good morning, good morning, good morning. Like I say, well, I'll do a bit of vamping before we get into our main topic for today. But, whew. Like I say, we'll get some more people in, because I'm sure that's what people will want to hear my thoughts on. Certainly about that leadership debate. But, because the thing is, there were two debates that happened yesterday. Obviously, there was the big one on Channel 4, but there was also one on Conservative Home as well. Oh, good morning from Ossett. Good morning to you. You haven't seen the debate? Looking forward to it. Well, trust me, you're not missing much. You're really not missing much, to be honest. Like I say, we'll wait for a couple more people sort of to get in, because I see more people are still piling in. Like I say, do remember to hit that like and share button. Share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it on Discord, all that good stuff. Like I say, the more people get in, the better. Because, like I say, I'm sure people are going to want to hear sort of my comments on the leadership debate. But my word, the weather today is, it's going to be absolutely scorching today. Especially with the extreme heat weather warning we've actually had today. Something to bring up about that is actually the first time in history of the UK, the weather office has had to declare such a emergency around heat. So if you are in the UK today, keep yourself cool. If you are going to be out today, then remember your suntan lotion. Keep hydrated and keep yourself cool. Oh. Just a very curious dog. So yeah, like I say, lots of dog walkers probably out early this morning, because they all probably know as well. Walking their dog later is going to be sort of next to impossible, if not. Yeah, so it's going to be a warm one today, but yeah, we've vamped for long enough. So, about that debate last night. Wow. Honestly, wow. Was it actually interesting? No. Oh, hang on a second. Let me just... There we go. As I can see all the dust on the screen with the sun, it's really putting me off reading the comments. So I can't see them. But yeah, that's a bit better now. I've done that. So yeah, wow. It is really much wow. You know, I'll tell you this now. There was not a lot of, shall we say, expectations from me in this debate. And I put it this way, I wasn't disappointed. I really wasn't disappointed in it. Not one of them showed any form of life, thus leading to the conclusion that there must be clearly someone making all these conservative robots. I mean, Trustbot last night clearly showing, or Lizbot, I suppose we'll call her, clearly showing that she needs a software update. I mean, when Maybot was clearly showing more humanity than her, you know, clearly definitely need of a sort of software upgrade, if not a hardware upgrade, possibly. But yeah, there wasn't. We'll talk about some of the moments, I think, first, and then we'll talk about individual candidates and the possibility of what could happen as of this debate, but also the possibilities that other people are talking about. So the first question put towards the candidates was one of trust. Why should these members of the audience, made up of sort of floating voters, trust you? And to be honest, none of them really inspired too much trust, to be honest. And then, of course, I think one of the moments that will certainly be remembered was the simple yes or no question. Is Boris Johnson an honest person? And they all gave their little platitudes of, well, no, he's done a really good job, because they're all terrified. They're all terrified of him taking revenge. You know, Boris Johnson at the moment is clearly building up some sort of backbench rebel alliance for him to lead when he returns to being a backbencher. And we've said before, he's going to cause problems for whoever wins. And I think they're trying to hope that if they sort of placate him in some way, he won't cause as much trouble for them, which is absolutely false, because yes, he will absolutely go and cause trouble for them. That should be pretty much obvious from the get-go. And of course, the only one who actually seriously answered the question was Tom Tugendhat. And he generally got a round of applause. So at least good on him for generally answering the question, is Boris Johnson an honest man? And of course, when it came to the end of that session, they asked, well, do you trust any of them, to the audience? And of course, not a person in the audience put their hand up. So it just goes to show you what an uphill battle any of the candidates is generally going to have in trying to restore trust in the Tory party. The next big sort of showdown was that Badnoch tried to sort of pull the debate into the culture war stuff, which is sort of her bread and butter, part of her campaign. And God, I hope she doesn't become PM. I really hope she doesn't become PM, because I've said this before, culture war stuff, or this culture war stuff that people like her talk about, is pure nonsense. It doesn't help. It foments an atmosphere of hate and gets used as an excuse by bigots to essentially just be nasty to people. And essentially that's the culture war stuff. So hopefully, unfortunately, I don't think so. I think she's very much got now on the Conservative Party radar. So she will become some sort of unfortunate minor celebrity within the Tory party, which is very worrying, to be honest, but there you go. You know, and we will sort of be seeing more of her, unfortunately, in the future. Which, to be honest, is going to be very, very depressing. Very, very depressing indeed, to be honest. Are we... Oh, I'm noticing the stream's a bit... Are we a bit slow? Are we still a bit... Yeah. Seth Riding, we have our own Marjorie Taylor Greene then. Yes, pretty much we do. I think that's certainly what her aim and objective seems to certainly be. For those of you who don't know who Marjorie Taylor Greene is, yeah, go look her up after this stream. Have fun. Have fun with that. But yeah, certainly she seemed to try to drag it into the culture wars. But again, luckily at the moment, this culture war stuff doesn't seem to be resonating with the public, which is, to be honest, I'm quite thankful for at the moment. So hopefully this is definitely something that we can at least show that the culture wars aren't going to become sort of a main spectacle of our politics, like they are certainly in America. The next one was the economy question, and Sunak certainly showed last night that his experience as Chancellor is definitely going to be advantageous for him in these conflicts, as he and Liz Truss certainly butted heads over the arguments of the economy. And like I say, I'm not an economist, so I can't really comment to say, you know, which one was right. But no doubt, probably today, we'll probably see some articles pointing out certainly the economic, probably illiteracy, or the fact that Rishi Sunak has mismanaged the economy to a point where we are now. So probably something to look forward to later on that score. And then, of course, the other big question was around their tax cuts, because they're pretty much all offering tax cuts. And as we always say, if you are going to cut taxes, that means the government is either going to do one of two things. Either A, it will have to borrow more money, or it will have to cut services somewhere. So what services are they going to cut? The Conservatives constantly talk about this, about having, you know, a high level of public services. But if you want a high level of good public services, then you've got to fund them. You can't get around that. You can't just say, oh, we'll make them more efficient. You know, the efficiency argument is completely pointless. So those were sort of the highlights, I'd say, of the debate. But how did each individual certainly perform? Well, to be honest, I think the agreement certainly was last night, although we'll get into some of the polls after this. The agreement seemed to be last night that Sunak sort of quote unquote won, although there's a lot of people saying it wasn't that convincing, and that Liz Truss definitely lost, because that's another thing someone pointed out, was that she was cosplaying as Margaret Thatcher, apparently, which doesn't surprise me, because she's been doing that her entire career. So it doesn't surprise me it came up last night as well. So that's what seems to be the consensus from last night, that Sunak won. But I'd say, from my point of view, it took him a while to warm up. And certainly when they were talking about the economy, that's where he seemed to sort of be able to sort of mix it up a bit more in those areas. But again, that's because of his sort of experience as Chancellor came in useful for him. But other than that, yeah, I certainly do agree that Truss certainly lost last night. She certainly came out the worst of all of them. As Mordaunt and Truss all did really bad last night. So there is that sense that they did fail, which is good. But then again, you're talking about getting Rishi Sunak. But then again, if you look at the polls, the Conservative membership doesn't want Rishi Sunak. So, as we said, yesterday morning, where we did the debate predictions, that's what he's got to do. That's who he's trying to sort of reach out to during these, during these debates, to reach out to that, Tory audience, if any were certainly watching. But that is sort of really sums up the debate last night. And then what about Tom Tugendhat? Well, Tom Tugendhat, his moment was the fact that he could answer the question about a dishonest Boris Johnson really, really easily. He was able to answer it very easily. So, in the end, I suppose that sort of worked out for him quite well. Is there going to be a Tom Tugendhat revival? I doubt it, to be honest. Odds are that on Monday he drops out, but unless he can put in a really good showing on the debate on Sunday, then again, it's still very doubtful whether he sort of has that that pull, because he has to start pulling MPs over to his side. Hang on. There we go. Yeah, and that was the other thing, FSM. The big certainly the big question of the night was, what do you do about the cost of living crisis? And of course, not a one really had an answer to the cost of living crisis, which just goes to show you the trouble the Tories are going to get in just in a few months' time. You know, you can't really go around and say, yeah, we're going to, you know, really get into, like, get into these arguments about trying to solve the cost of living crisis and not have any ideas. I'm noticing my signal's a bit crap today. I notice I'm a bit slow. I'm still a bit buffering. Hopefully I'm coming through all right sound-wise though. Yeah, you're all right, Paul. It's the start of a long emergency and you're all right. They haven't got a single clue at all. And that's what's really worrying, because we are heading into a lot of very serious crises. And the fact that not a single one of them has a genuine solution other than to just cut taxes is very, very worrying. And they did a lot of shall we say, after polls. They did a lot of there we go. They did a lot of after polls of what people thought, and Tom Tugendhat came out on top of a lot of those polls. So I have to wonder, because the next vote's going to be on Monday, and we've got 2 debates between them. Just having a good scratch. Anyway, come on. So, don't mind me. Don't mind me, boys. Just trying to get through. This is what happens when they won't let you through. But anyway, teeny tiny pony. That's it. Come on now. There we go. There we go. So, overall, that's quite surprising. And it is worth noting that Tom, or at least Tugendhat, did in his ending statement, did implore people who were, again, watching the vote, at least his voters, did implore people to write to their MP to say who they wanted for as candidate, which I think isn't going to work out too well for him, because by the time, you know, most of these people have written to their MPs, the Monday's vote will be over for him. So unless he should have said email your MP, and I wish sort of they had done. That might have worked better a bit in his favour for him if he'd said that. But yeah, overall, like I said, we've got another debate on Sunday, and then that is followed by the voting on Monday, and then that will be another live debate on that Monday. And I am fully expecting I'm fully expecting Tom Tugendhat to get dropped in that leadership, in that vote, unless something drastic happens this weekend and in sort of the next debate. But I can't see him shaking any of those sort of losses, or at least making any significant gains between now and then. And I think it's interesting, to say the least, because a lot of people are saying that Badenoch as well is also pretty much out. But the final three is really going to be, you know, Truss, Rishi and Mordaunt. And I think when Badenoch finally drops out, or at least gets eliminated, she will probably end up backing Liz Truss, and her votes will go to Liz Truss. And at the moment, as is still the case, because she's probably picked up all of Braverman's votes as well, that will put Liz Truss in second place. And then it will, of course, be, as I've told you before, the much talked about on this Good Morning Walk, the showdown between Truss and Sunak. And in that, as we've said before, Truss is going to walk it. So unless like the Tory party, or at least the non-parliamentary Tory party, starts to significantly turn against her, I'm really starting to think that Truss is going to be our next Prime Minister. And oh, you know, heaven help us then. Heaven help us indeed. Oh, Lars, good morning from Spain. Good morning to you. It'll be a free market pirate. Yeah, well, yeah. And then, at that point, we've got a situation where the ERG will essentially finally be in control, or at the wheel of the Tory party, at the head of the table. And it's very likely Liz Truss will appoint not only sort of more advisors from the Tufton Street Mafia, but also you'll see sort of more ERG members, probably in some very prime positions, such as Foreign Secretary, Chancellor of the Exchequer, etc., etc. I fully expect to sort of see some very prominent members of the ERG fill those positions. And then at that point, you know, I often talked about how now that Boris had won with his big majority, you know, the Brexiteers have no one to blame. But even now, they were still blaming Boris for not truly delivering Brexit, which just goes to show just how much of a victim complex these Brexiteers really do have. And sort of in a way, this will be quite good for the rejoined cause, because they're going to go in, they're going to take to cabinet, they're also going to have a big majority, so no one's going to be able to stop them from doing anything, or in this case, stop their inaction. And essentially they're going to sort of accelerate Brexit, I think, at a pace that we haven't seen before. I think this is where we'll start to see deregulation. And of course, that's going to harm the economy even more. And of course, Brexit is just going to slowly start disintegrating. So Fatgasm, morning Richie. Everyone's looking forward to the play at Headingley. Well, certainly something to look forward to today. Tories will never change direction. All the slaves to fact. Very true. Be a free market pirate. Yeah, car crash is coming. Yeah, exactly. And in a, you know, and the thing is, you know, I sort of don't want this to happen because don't get me wrong, it'll be good to finally completely show that Brexit and Euroscepticism was always an absolutely awful idea that had absolutely no policies and its ideas were awful. But the problem is, it's going to be done at the expense of the British economy and, you know, hundreds of thousands of people's jobs. It's going to cause so much damage and it's going to affect a lot of people just to essentially prove that Brexit doesn't work. What's that? And still Starmer is busy clearing out all that anti-Semitism. Well, here's the thing, bizarrely enough, you know, and a lot of people were sort of saying it, I think Keir Starmer last night will have been watching that debate and cheering because you've got a Conservative Party that hasn't got a clue, that hasn't got any serious policies to tackle any of the crises that are coming along. And I've said this, I don't know how many times on this channel. Starmer has to release a manifesto. He has to be bold and be brave about the policies that Labour should put forward. Because if he can do that, I think you're going to get a massive sweep up of votes. And then, of course, in that term, you know, Labour has to be able to deliver, you know, on those policies. So, all in all, you know, a lot of people were saying it last night on Twitter, but yeah, really, Keir Starmer was the true winner of that debate. Because Liz Truss at the dispatch box against Starmer, can you really, after that performance yesterday, can you really seriously say that she's going to do well at PMQs? Can you honestly say she's going to do well at PMQs against Starmer? Absolutely not. She's going to get absolutely eviscerated week after week after week. And that is going to cause a lot of upset amongst the Tory party. Because here's the thing. All the Tory MPs at the moment, the majority of them seem to be backing Rishi. But the actual parliamentary party wants someone else. They don't want Rishi. So this is going to cause a huge division in the party. You're going to get, as we've said before, November, the cost of living crisis is going to absolutely explode. Certainly, whoever is Prime Minister is going to be forced to do some very unconservative things, to have to step in and solve a lot of these problems. And that is going to upset the backbenchers. Boris is going to be on the backbenchers as well, fomenting, upset, feeding on that division, egging people on. And to be honest, I've said this, I think in six months' time, we'll be doing this all again. Even if it's not, a 6 months' time, I really do think we'll be doing this again soon, choosing yet another Tory leader. Why? Well, it was fully on display last night. The Tory party has completely completely lost sense of reality. The fact that we've got all these problems, the fact that there are solutions out there, the fact that you've got sort of conservative governments like sort of over in Europe who are doing far, far more and did far, far more for their public, you know, over in Europe. And yet the conservatives over here did absolutely nothing and still continue to do absolutely nothing to help out with the cost of living crisis. And, you know, this year and next year is going to be very, very hard for a lot of people, if it isn't already for a lot of people. You know, we've got all these strikes that are going to happen simultaneously. And as I said just a couple of weeks ago, well, just 2 months ago now, we're going to have a summer of strikes. And this summer of strikes is going to cause even more problems for the Tory party because they're refusing to sort of, you know, sort this out. Grant Shapps, again, according to the RMT union, has been himself delaying and blocking these talks and agreements from happening between the union and the company. So what you are certainly seeing is something that we did talk about almost 2 years ago, that we would be seeing a lot more union action, because this is where they have to play now. It was that they would go to Brussels, because that's where all the action was. That's where all the regulatory stuff happened. But that's not the case now. And all the unions are very, very quickly homing in on the government, telling them what they want, as well as businesses and all this stuff. And they are actively trying to block a ton of stuff with the government's happening. And there's a lot of people going, oh, Labour isn't going to do anything about it, which I always point out to the fact you clearly haven't been paying attention to what Labour has been saying about some of these strikes. You know, you've had Ed Miliband saying for quite some time now, oh yeah, we're going to increase. Oh, hang on, we've got a pony blockade. You know, Ed Miliband is saying, as he's currently shadow business secretary, so he would be business secretary, he's going to increase support for unions and increase the stuff that unions can do to help support their workers. So, pardon me, boys. There you go. Oh. Hang on. Looks like we've got a pony exodus to the watering hole. But try and cross on over quickly before they block it off. I won't be able to get over. Excuse me. Oh, there we go. But yeah, thirsty boys indeed. So, yeah, all in all, in this debate, you know, truly, really the winner was Keir Starmer. But Keir Starmer has to seriously step up now. He can't, you know, his strategy of just sitting back and sort of watching them tear themselves to pieces is sort of paying off. But whoever sort of ends up stepping up, you know, then will be the time to put forward a manifesto, to start putting forward, you know, good, positive ideas. And they are there in the Labour Party. We've heard about the decarbonisation of the steel industry. We've heard about Ed Miliband saying about all the stuff that he would do to help and support unions and give them stuff back to have sort of more power again. Rachel Reeves would be the greenest chancellor we have ever had for her green economy plan, which is really good. So, above all, go away from me. So, above all, last night, it was Keir Starmer who was the winner of that debate, and he wasn't even there, and he didn't even have to be there, because it just goes to show you they've completely run out of ideas. There is no imagination. They have no plans to help solve serious problems that are only about a couple of months away. You'd think they'd maybe be putting forward ideas or solutions, but no, they don't seem to be. So, yeah. It's going to be a complete shambles. It really is. And then we'll probably be doing this all again in another, 6 to 12 months. So that's the situation. So that's the very sort of serious way in nature that sort of this is all going to happen. It becomes more and more difficult to really go and start solving these problems. So that's the situation at the moment. Apparently I'm not going to be too keen on all this net zero stuff. Well, bear in mind what's happening this weekend, that we are having a very serious weather warning. For the first time in history, the Met Office is having to issue a heat warning in the UK. I think this net zero stuff is pretty important. But it's not like the Tories have any serious answers to any of this stuff. There is serious economic, progression that we can have. I've done a bit of work for, the Barnsley net zero people. I've talked to the businesses that are currently going in on net zero and seriously committing to like sustainability, and it's helping their business when they do it. So you can say all that all you want to, but the facts disprove you massively wrong on that. So yeah, we are entering, and we are probably going to see, I think, the final three, because it's obvious that the next vote, unless something drastically changes at the next vote, Tom Tugendhat is going to drop out, which basically gives up any hope that the Tories are sort of, because Tom Tugendhat is going to be able to sort of drag the party back to a more centrist direction and stop it, at least for a time being, or at least for a moment, stop it, or at least slow down its trajectory of going into like a really far right direction that it's going in. Liz Truss, if she gets in, is going to massively accelerate it. And to be honest, at the moment, if you were to put money on who's going to win, it's going to be Liz Truss. Because what's going to happen is this: Tom Tugendhat's going to drop out probably on Monday, with the Monday's vote. That's going to leave Badenoch, Mordaunt and Truss. Where do Tom Tugendhat's votes go? It's difficult to say. It's difficult to predict where those votes are going to go. But ultimately, what will happen again is there will be another vote and Badenoch will get dropped out. All her votes will then go to Liz Truss, because that's the ERG candidate. And then when that happens, Mordaunt will certainly move down into third position, which will lead to, as we've talked about before, the much talked about and much hyped about Liz and Rishi Bowl that will play out for all the summer. And then, unfortunately, Liz Truss will win, because not only do the Tory party, the members of the Tory party who are going to be voting in this, not only do they not want Rishi Sunak, they far more want, for some awful, bizarre reason, to put Liz Truss in. And Liz Truss is going to get in. She's going to be absolutely awful. And she's going to accelerate the Tory party even more down a hard right direction. The ERG at that point will have taken full control over the Tory party. They will have their man at the top of the table, or woman at this case, at the top of the table. She will start appointing more and more hard right Tories to top positions. And at that point, we're going to see some really awful stuff. And I'll tell you now, Brexit is going to go, it's already going pretty bad, but it's going to go even worse, because they are going to diverge. They're going to start really giving in to their free market desires. It is going to mean that the UK economy cannot trade as effectively with Europe. Europe is still our most important trading partner. They are like across the pond. Trade gravity is an observable thing. It doesn't matter that we've done these trade deals with Australia and New Zealand. The farmers are going to heavily revolt against Liz Truss. Both are the fishing communities, because as we've seen, the news that Liz Truss already knew that doing these trade deals would damage farming is not going to be a good look for her. She is going to probably lose the next election, and we probably end up with either a Labour minority government or a Labour Lib Dem coalition. And hopefully we then end up with PR, and hopefully PR will hopefully start to solve some of these problems which we have been seeing, certainly when it comes to voting. So, yeah. Liz Truss might remain. Well, she's for remaining outside the European Union. Like I said before, Liz Truss is an absolute political chameleon. That's essentially what she is. But yeah, unfortunately, a lot of the MPs and certainly the ERG want her as their candidate. But yeah, and of course, you're going to get Boris Johnson causing trouble on the backbenchers. Not only that, you're going to have certainly Mordaunt, Tom Tugendhat, Sunak is going to be on there, the backbenchers as well, and they're going to be fomenting so much dissatisfaction, because Truss is not going to be able to solve all these problems. Their poll numbers are going to start dropping, and then they're going to start wanting to get rid of Liz Truss, which means essentially we're going to be doing this all again in 6 to 12 months' time. And that's essentially it. So, yeah, that's the Good Morning Walk. So, as always, thank you very much for joining me on this absolutely cracking good day. It's going to be absolutely a corker of a day. Like I say, if you do go out today, please do, take some water with you. Make sure you've got your suntan on. So, yeah, it's all going to be good, hopefully, this weekend. So, yeah, get out, enjoy the sun while you can, but don't stay out for it too long. And, yeah, remember to, go back inside once you've had enough sun. So, yeah, as always, thank you very much for joining me today on today's Good Morning Walk. Please Please do remember to hit that like button on your way out. Remember the share button as well. Remember to leave a comment after us as well for all the algorithmical stuff. And of course, we'll see you next weekend for another Good Morning Walk. And of course, we'll also have some more, good stuff videos coming out. We'll be having a midweek video, which will probably be, again, talking about the Tory contest. But I'm fully expecting by that point to certainly be seeing that the final two is certainly Liz Truss, Rishi Sunak in the final two. I'll be very surprised if we haven't managed to whittle it down to those two at last. Or, like I say, you don't know what could happen between then and now. Maybe Mordaunt still contains, or at least keeps, a very commanding lead, which keeps her in the number 2 spot. We don't know. But certainly things could get very, very interesting in the Tory party very, very soon. And of course, as I've talked about my predicted Tory civil war is already there. It's happening plain in front of us. It happened on live camera last night. So yeah. So remember, there's going to be another live debate on Sunday, followed by another round of voting on Monday, where we're probably expecting Tom Tugendhat to get dropped out, because it is the again candidate with the least amount of votes gets dropped out. We will see another live debate on that following Monday, and then hopefully by Wednesday, we'll be able to talk about the final two and potentially what has happened in those two leadership debates as well. So, we'll see you then live on Wednesday. If not, watch out for the videos. Like I say, hit the like, share, and subscribe button on your way out. Like I say, down below, there are links to my Patreon page, one donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. There's also the YouTube subscription button, where you get all sorts of little bells, whistles, and what's not that you can use on YouTube. And of course, we'll see you all next weekend for another Good Morning Walk. And of course, stay safe, keep hydrated, and have an absolutely cracking weekend. Ooh, there we go.